nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is Secret America, where media meets truth.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America?
Buckle up. As always, it's about to get real. Your Secret America hosts, Jack Danger and Jay Gatling.
Welcome, everybody. I am Jack Danger along with Jay Gatling, and we appreciate everybody coming in tonight. We just want to say real quick to make sure you subscribe and follow us on X, YouTube, Rumble, Kick, Instagram, and TikTok. It is all at Secret America TV, all the names of Secret America TV, and we are on live every weekday. So we have now a very special guest. Her name is Anneke Lucas, and she is an author, speaker, and advocate for child sex trafficking victims and creator of the Unconditional Model. Her work is based on personal experience of a 30-year healing journey after surviving being sold by her family as a child sex slave to a pedophile network. And now she is this excellent survivor and author, like I said, and an advocate for child trafficking victims. So we're going to go ahead and bring her in. Anneke, how are you doing today?
Hi Jack. Hi Jay.
Hi, Anneke.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you coming in here, and your story is very important, and that's why we feel like it needs to be told, and I'm sure you do too, because you probably tell it all the time. So if you want to just you can tell it, you can give an overview, whatever you want to do, and then we'll just ask questions or whatever you want to do is fine with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for giving me this platform, also for your invitation. So yes, I've been speaking out since 2013, and that was rather late because I'm from Belgium. I was born there, and I was sold into a network through people that infiltrated our home and then acted as pimps for this local network that took me in at age 6. And the strange thing was I tried to tell my mother, and then she ended up taking over for them. So
wait, you said your mother took over. So you told your mother that you were being sold as a child sex slave to these local pedophiles by some pimps that infiltrated your house. And instead of protecting you, she became the person that did it to collect the money.
basically only that the vocabulary of a 6-year-old is not quite as eloquent, So I basically said that bad things had happened. I was really, screaming that I didn't want to go back and everything. And then my mother somehow ended up being the person that was, she bought a car and then started taking me herself and then took the money. Yes.
Was it more than money, or were there threats to your mother that you know about, violence or anything that they had on her, or to make her do other than money?
No, my mother was mentally ill, so certainly she was not threatened. It was more like she was an extremely willing and enthusiastic volunteer, you could say.
Oh,
And she was, from her own mental illness, I think she was only too happy to pimp out her daughter.
That is horrible. So if you want to continue from there, you can continue and tell the rest of it if you'd like.
Sure. That the first time I was taken, it was immediately extreme. The first event was in a castle in Belgium, and it was sort of a masked ball, and it was extreme. The abuse I suffered was immediately very extreme, and I was also graphically threatened to stay quiet. I spoke up after I'd been humiliated, abused publicly, and so humiliated. I stood up, and people were drunk. It was like a hippie ball. It was 1969, and it was very confusing because people were dressed as hippies and were doing drugs, except that the drugs were offered by butlers on silver platters, you could say. So it
Wow.
was both formal and hippie, with hippie music, and people were dressed as hippies and were very high and drunk. But there was also child abuse happening, and I was used in a sick S&M spectacle in a salon or a ballroom, with people
Wow.
around being so drunk they barely noticed.
And how old are you at this time when this is happening?
6.
6 years old.
And this was your first experience right here, this happening, and it was something that was extreme. I mean, obviously, any kind of child sex abuse is extreme, but this was how much further than people? How much further do you think it went than the? I mean, it's hard to explain, but I mean, when you say extreme, what do you mean?
Well, I had been raped by the pimp, the original pimp. The woman came to clean our house, and so that she and her husband would take me on outings, would get me. I never liked them. I never wanted to go. I had to go, and they took me along to many things. There were other children there. They said they were their nieces and nephews, but the children changed all the time. So it was a year of outings like that where they really, I think, got my parents comfortable with them taking me. And then the husband raped me. That happened first.
The husband of the housekeeper?
Yes.
And now, was this housekeeper brought? It almost seems when this housekeeper first came to the house, when his first underemployment, was it suspected, or were this person were they sent into houses like yours with a young child there for this purpose?
That's what I believe, that she was sent. I think that our family was targeted because of my mother's mental illness. And then my stepfather so she had me single. And then my stepfather just had come in the picture, and he was absent a lot. And he was also, clearly it worked in this family. We were a good target family in terms of, and I had been in touch with some children of the nobility because I came in, it's a little complicated, but I was born in Brussels and had a French-speaking nanny. And when my mother married, I only spoke French at 3, and I didn't speak any Flemish. I didn't speak any Dutch. So I was exposed to a few children from the nobility because the noble families all speak French, just to help me along.
So it sounds like sorry, Jack, real quick. It sounds like you were born into, your family had money.
My stepfather did have money. My mother was not, they both came from working class families, and they really worked their way up. That my stepfather just had money, and so we were definitely upper middle class. Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to start from that first experience you had and go on, I'm going to try not to interrupt you anymore and just ask questions afterward, because I know everybody's curious to hear what's going on. What happened?
It's really all right. Yeah. But yes, so actually the fact that we were middle class was different. Most of the children were like that. They were recruited out of families, and then the pimps brought them over for one night or 2 nights or more, but they could be taken back home, and they could be, fed and cared for in their own homes, while the parents or whoever was caring for them was receiving money for them. So my mother then took over and took the money. And so immediately the experience was very extreme. That was, I said it was an S&M show on a stage.
Jeez.
And yeah, I had this experience where I was lying there naked, and there were these really high people around that had barely noticed me. And I had this, I knew that I had to say something or else I would die inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I stood up, I felt this strength, and I felt myself getting, this strength from inside. And I just said, "You can't do this to me. I'm going to make sure you all go to jail." Mm-hmm. And when I said it, nobody really cared. Nobody really saw it. And then afterwards, I was threatened very graphically to not speak, and extremely graphically. So right away. So it was all very extreme. And I tried to speak out anyway to my mother, in spite of the threat. And then my mother started taking me. And so Badekar started taking me. And so these were events in the Belgian network. The leader of the network was, as far as I could tell, the then Minister of National Defense, Paul van den Boeinans was his name. He was also prime minister twice in Belgium. And he was what I would have called the big boss. And he was arranging everything. And I was used mostly in that time from 6 to 9, from 1969 to 1972. I was used, so it kind of worked. These were parties a lot that operated like a secret club. People came in through secret clubs as well. And it was all about belonging and seeing how far people would go in order to, and then, those who did go the farthest, they did get rewards and promotions and so forth. And this was the whole Belgian, it was a judiciary. There were cops. I mean, the top of the cops were there. There were doctors and lawyers and there were politicians, a lot of politicians. So that was the Belgian, from Paul van den Boeinans. That was his group. And so I was used a lot for people that were supposedly new. So that meant that a lot of there were nobles were also very involved. And a lot of times the nobles would offer their castles as places where the orgies would take place. And so I was used from the beginning for the supposed newcomers, the men that supposedly didn't really, had never done this with a child this young. And then I had to make them feel okay about it. I had to make them, put them at ease. I had to act like I was, the prostitute, and had to take them to a certain room where I knew how the camera was set up, and I had to position them so that it would be on tape or that it would be filmed.
As a child, and this is a child. You're 6 or this is
6, 7, 8 years old. Yes.
That's incredible.
And so I just want to say one thing real quick before we continue. So where the videotapes, was that for like a blackmail type thing or something, that they used on people, kind of like the whole Epstein thing was with their blackmail? He had video cameras all in the mansions. They did the same kind of thing. Is that what it was for?
Exactly. Yes, that's what it was for. That's how people got reeled in. But it's also, nobody ever said, I'm not doing this. Sorry, I just have to plug in.
No problem.
I wasn't plugged in. Nobody ever said, I'm not going to do this. This is a young child. I can't do this. So
unbelievable.
There was this triage happening all the time where, it was very clear that these men were not going to say no to this. So that they'd already been in situations, compromising situations, and were willing, to do this. And it's like that. That's how it works, right? It's those people that have the least scruples that are willing to do anything. And anything always means something really dark. And so a lot of them are just pedophiles that are then used in the system, that are positioned in the system and then used. I mean, the Belgian the royalty were the real leadership behind the scenes.
Wow. So tell me, how is it you're a child here at this point? I mean, how do you feel that it seems like everyone is a pedophile? I mean, it seems like even the people that are, everyone you come in contact with is seemingly, and nobody says no. Even the first timers don't say, I don't think I should do this. It's like nobody has a conscience or any kind of moral, aptitude at all.
Yeah, I was shocked that they all said no, because I was coming from the place where I thought, of course he's going to say, I can't do this. So every time I was surprised and disappointed. And that whole time when I was that young, I always had a little bit I always thought that they were really losers. And obviously I was seeing them in their worst moment.
Yes.
This was where they were the most pitiful, really. Because what shows in those moments when a pedophile is with a child and rapes a child is, that's pitiful. I always saw that this is somebody who is themselves like a little child in a way, and needs to just get that off their, needs to dump their trauma literally in the way that they were traumatized or something like it, where I don't think anybody who hasn't themselves been sexually abused, apart from maybe a few exceptions, could also even go do this. Not to say that everybody who's abused becomes a pedophile, not at all.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's a prerequisite that you're not magnetized to do this if you haven't had that in your own experience. So
I have to agree.
Or some kind of childhood trauma, some kind of other maybe severe trauma or physical abuse or anything, something mental.
It's
abuse.
weird though that every pedophile that you see has had some sort of child sexual thing happen to them when they were a kid. I mean, I've never seen, and there's tons of pedophiles out there, and I don't think I've ever seen one that hasn't had that kind of thing happen to them when they were a child. And that's the kind of thing that goes into their mind and it warps their head. So then it's usually, and it's not even just with child sex, it's with a lot of other things where the abused ends up becoming an abuser when they get older. That's incredible. So tell me, is this still hard for you to talk about? Because I can tell some of the things that you say, it kind of dredges up memories. Is it hard for you to talk about?
Well, I don't find it hard. I've been healing for my whole life. So
yeah, I mean, I'm just saying the memories though.
It's just that when I speak about it, of course I feel it, but I don't mind feeling what I say. I don't mind that. That's absolutely, I wouldn't want to say things without feeling either, because of course, I want to be careful and not shock people so that it becomes too much and people are just traumatized listening to it. But I also, we also have to be, try to be honest and
well, here you can feel free to say whatever you want, even if you shock people, it's fine. You can say whatever you want here on our show. Yeah, so let's go back to when you were okay, so you were 9 years old at this time, and if you want to just continue from there, if you want to.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. So something very important happened then, and that was because of the Bilderberg meeting that happened in Belgium in that year, 1972. And there just was a lot done by the Belgian network people to do things for the VIPs that were coming into the country. And so I was then used for, there was a ritual staged because Paul van den Boeynants, as far as I knew, he was not like a believing Satanist. He was an extreme sadist, yes. And he did horrible things. Like, let's not, I'm not minimizing anything about him, but he wasn't a believer in that sense. And so he staged a ritual in honor of David Rockefeller, who was part of that meeting. And so it wasn't at the meeting, it was obviously around that time in April of 1972. The location looked like it was below a cathedral.
Oh, wow.
You said the Rockefellers of the Rockefellers.
David Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Wow.
My goodness.
So let's continue there, because I want everybody to see how you I want everybody to get to how you got out of it, because I've heard parts. Actually, I saw a video that you were on before where you told how you got through it, and then eventually there was this person that did things, but they also eventually helped get you free.
Yeah, well, that's much later. So at 9. So first, everything changed for me when then David Rockefeller took an interest in me, completely outside of my own doing. I can tell you that, but he saw something in me that he saw as sophistication, and then decided he was going to make me his personal slave.
Jeez.
And for that, then some months later, I was flown to the United States. I was in New York. I was in his his mansion in Westchester. I spent time with him there. I was in his house in New York, and I was in his house in Maine. And he was, compared to the way I was treated normally, he was very nice. But I didn't realize that he was really testing me to see how he could best use me.
Mhm.
So he was just allowing me to be myself and seeing what my gifts were in order to see what he was going to do with me.
Let me just make clear to everybody, David Rockefeller is the brother of Nelson Rockefeller,
Yes.
who at that time was the governor of New York.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So I just want everybody to be clear on who we're talking about here.
Yes, yes, yes.
Very
Wow.
powerful.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, he was very powerful. He started a trilateral commission, and then did a lot of things. He was in Europe a lot. He traveled to Europe a lot, and he was a pedophile. So he was definitely very happy to be around a 9-year-old child. But he also really loved what he was doing, creating a star, because he decided, and this is based on, I didn't know who my father was because my mother just had a one-night stand with him. So I didn't know who he was, but clearly they went and found out from my mother who he was. And so based on what I can see is clearly my father's family line, which were musicians, classical musicians. And then they came from a line of Huguenots from France, and the Huguenots came from the Cathars, and the Cathars came from the Essenes. And so for the network, these bloodlines are everything. And so I was then I think the first thing for David Rockefeller was I from a bloodline, yes or no? I think if I wouldn't have been, he wouldn't have even bothered at all. But because I came from this very faintly, from this line of Huguenots, I was going to be part of it. And then I was treated very differently. And so he was triaging me, but he was also sexually training me in those places. And some days I spent the whole day in his bedroom I'm thinking of the mansion in Westchester, where I spent quite a lot of time alone. But then he was also showing me how to eat, for example, like how they eat, sitting together, just teaching. And he loved teaching. And I think it's another characteristic of a lot of pedophiles. They really like to teach the children because the children are really happy to learn from them. Whereas grown-ups just see right through their BS and they don't care, So he was teaching me how to be part of his group, and how to be comfortable in the elites. And also in his New York home, he actually there was staff there. It's very strange.
Yeah, and they witnessed this stuff, and they didn't do anything.
There was a butler and who was Hispanic, and there was a British woman who seemed like, I don't know, she was very nice and everything. It was so weird because they acted like it was all normal. And he spoke French with me. He was fluent in French. He spoke French with me, and he thought that, and he said I was his niece from France, except that it was, that's clearly wasn't the case.
Yeah.
He was there alone with me. So then, and then even for 1 week, I stayed somewhere in a family near DC, in a middle-class family with other children. He just kind of parked me there, and they were very, very happy to do him a favor, because he personally dropped me off. So for 1 week in July, so this is July 1972. And then on the way to Maine, so we were on his sailing yacht, which was a Hinckley sailing yacht, a very nice yacht. We docked at a house on, one of the east coast, northern east coast. And so this was a one-night visit. And the only person that was there was the Rothschild, Evelyn the Rothschild. So
Which one?
Evelyn.
Evelyn Rothschild?
Yeah.
And did she participate in any of this stuff?
That's a man. Yeah.
That's a man?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
How old was this person? How old was this Rothschild?
I think maybe he was in his 40s, so he was definitely younger. David Rockefeller was late 50s at that time. He was younger, but he clearly was more powerful. And he clearly was the one who was going to decide if he could do what he wanted to do with me, yes or no. And then they discussed together, and then he took me aside, and he basically invited me now into the family, and he described what my future was going to be as a French celebrity singer. He described the glamour and the comfort, and he described my future life, quite detailed also. And so, because as an elite slave for David Rockefeller, I was going to attract the most powerful men in the world. And then they're all network people. Well, let's not, make any mistakes. And I was then going to spy on them for him.
Wow. That's incredible. So let me ask you then. So you're saying that the Rothschild was more powerful than the Rockefeller?
Definitely.
Wow, that's interesting.
He was like the godfather. He invited me into the family.
Wow. So they were grooming you. This whole thing was done to groom you to be like a celebrity there in France or in Belgium?
In France. I was going to be
a singer.
A French celebrity, a singer, actor, yeah.
And that's why they were concerned about your bloodline.
Yeah, because now I had to give my will. So in this conversation with Rothschild, I had to give my will. So I said yes, of course, the way he made it sounded really good.
Yeah.
It was the best thing I ever heard. So I said yes. He said, "Can you say I will?" So I gave my will. I said, "I will be part of your family," and that was my I will. And it's really, that's how you give your will to the devil. And this was the beginning, of course. So then followed a year. So then after that, we sailed to Maine and spent a little bit of time in his home there. And then I was flown to Switzerland and was picked up there by the Belgian network leader, that Paul van den Boeinans, who first he did a very strange thing. He took me to some kind of a lab place where he did a mind control where I was basically, I was strapped on a doctor's kind of thing, and he was screaming in my ear. Okay, a little graphic, but he was screaming in my ear that if my man leaves me, I should kill myself. I should just look for any way to just end my life, because my life is worth nothing without my man, if my man leaves me. Meanwhile, there were two young men in white lab coats acting very aloof, but one was stimulating me sexually, so that this message about the man and this forcible stimulation then was like connecting my man with sex. So there was a suicide program put in right away. And these two men then did some kind of a scrape. It was weird. It was a little painful. And I obviously don't know what these things are about. But then Van den Boeinans then drove me to Heidelberg, and there dumped me there in this, what looks like a very nice villa on the outside. Very hard to get to, but nice villa. And in that basement was really set up as a mind control facility, where I was then trained. We're talking trauma-based mind control. With this Dr. Hans Harmsen, who was, obviously extremely sadistic, but very scientific also. Like, if in the camps, the Germans were doing experiments, and in this time this was not experimentation. And there, when I was in the Belgian network from 6 to 9, I thought I had my own thoughts. I thought these men were losers. And I knew that I didn't really want to do it, even though I had to do everything they said, and I had to feel dirty, or I had to feel bad, or I had to feel whatever it was that I felt that they were dumping on me psychically also. Even though I felt it, I had a distance from it too. I knew that it wasn't mine. And I knew that they were the bad guys and I was innocent. I knew it. somewhere, like it gets lost quite a bit.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
somewhere I knew that mind control training was so thorough and so extreme that I lost that sense then. And now
Wow.
I
What
felt,
can you go ahead? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I was there for a month.
What kind of stuff? I was going to ask you. What kind of experiments or mind control things did he do in the basement?
Yeah, so the basic mind control is alpha, which is physical training, which for me was for my strength and flexibility as a sex slave.
Mm-hmm.
Beta is for the sex. I wasn't sexually touched there, but I was forced to watch films.
Jesus.
And these were for two reasons.
Mm-hmm.
When I met David Rockefeller, he had been impressed because he thought I saw the little boy part in him.
Mm-hmm.
I saw his vulnerability. And so now in this training, I was forced to watch men at their breaking point. I had to learn to see a man's face, and then I would first see him until he would be reaching his breaking point, whatever that was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to look at a man's face and guess what his weakness was. And I was forced to watch this. So this is like in these chairs where I'm with irons, with these clamps that keep my eyes open.
Wow. That's unbelievable. So it's like they were training you to be like a spy, or try to, so that way you can get information out of the most.
Yeah, to get and it's also getting that information intuitively by just looking at a man's face. It was not only the weakness, but it was also to find their sexual perversions. And so I was forced to watch these films of a man, and then he would engage in a sexual perversion. Horrific.
Yeah.
And then I'd see another man's face and I had to guess what his perversion was. And then if I got it wrong, I would be either suffocated or drowned
Mm-hmm.
so
Jesus.
long that I would have a near-death experience. And then in the near-death, I would actually also become more intuitive. So it was punishment as well as also training, so that the next time I would sense more what this man, would like sexually. And so that was part of my beta training. And then there's theta training, which is opening the psyche. So that was done a lot. And Hans Harmsen, I think his specialty was to really open the psyche to cause near-death experiences and know exactly how long I could stay out. And there were many ways in which this was done. I was in a saltwater tank, but with deep water, so I couldn't, I couldn't sleep, and I was left in there a really long time.
Wow.
So that weightlessness makes you very psychic. And then I was given a task to sort of relate what I was seeing, what was coming to me. And I was also given a picture of a politician, that was Kurt Kiesinger, who had been a German chancellor. So these were the types of trainings that I had there. And Hans Harmsen also had me on sort of a deathbed where I was, it was like I was just full of needles with drugs and also electrocution and he would say, if you survive this, you're going to come back really different. You're going to do this and that and that. And then he would describe how I would be if I came back. And then, I would leave the body and then he seemed to know exactly, but very strange things that I experienced there.
Sounds like the type of mind control experiments that the CIA did with MK Ultra.
They're similar. It's the same, really, because the Germans came to the United States with Operation Paperclip. That was really what that was. And then I think MK Ultra was a combination of the German and the American mind control. So this is Hans Harmsen, that was a German mind control, but that's exactly the same as MK Ultra, yes. So these were extreme experiences, and I realized, so as a child, I was just a child, and I was not particularly pretty or anything. So to create like this sexy young woman for who's going to be a singer and an actress, and in France that means a lot of nudity also. So to become that, I had to be a beautiful woman. So a lot of this mind control, weirdly enough, is sort of what gives you the vibration of the beautiful woman. Like there was beautiful women are supposed to be untouchable. I was 9 years old, but I was put in a near-death state, and I was told that I would descend into the depths of hell. And so what I experienced through the drugs is what I experienced. I was lying flat on my back, and what I experienced was a sort of descending and into what seemed like all demons around me. These horrific, ugly demons I saw. And it was as if there was like a 2 miles thick layer of demons that I had to descend through. And then underneath that layer of demons, there is nothing. And he said, you're going to descend into the depths of hell, and a part of you is always going to stay there. And so it was to create the sense of unattainability, like the beautiful woman looks sad and the men just want to go rescue her. They want to go save her. Or another.
So it was just to attract more men to you, because they want to make you vulnerable and look vulnerable to everybody else. So they would be attracted to want to save you, to want to help you.
Exactly. So there's that persona on the one hand, vulnerable, and another, one of these things I had to psychically go and I was screaming for my mother, and he said, you can't scream for your mother. You have to scream for men. And then when he put me under, he said, if you survive this, the only people that can help you are men. So all you can do is your psyche has to reach out to men for your life. So I did that, there was this experience, at least that seemed to me that this happened, that I was psychically appealing to every man in the vicinity. So on the one hand, you're like a damsel in distress, but on the other hand, you're unattainable. And that's part of that beautiful persona that I was going to be, which isn't me. So anyway, there's a little bit of examples of the kind of crazy things that happened there, but very effective. And in that year, I was trained, the whole year I was trained and also deployed. I was taken to Germany a lot to be with that ex-politician, Kurt Kiesinger, and then report on him and his weakness to David Rockefeller. Wow. I was taken to France in an underground facility where I spent time with an entourage, where I was naked and they were dressed, and they were just taking care of my beauty and hair and photographs and everything, but in that flattering way, just like it didn't matter that I was naked, but they were just flattering me just to get me used to being a star.
Yeah.
How many people are involved in that particular?
The entourage were about 8 people, and there was a hairdresser, there was a masseuse, there was a photographer, and then there was he's a famous composer and singer, pop music in France, and he came there to teach me, basically singing lessons and giving me the choreography for the first performance that I was going to do. And that performance was going to be, a year later. So we're talking now April of 73. I was going to give my first performance, and it was only for an in crowd, for people in the network. But now in Belgium, I had seen, I didn't know who these people were, just to be clear. I didn't know who anybody was ever, but it turned out that I recognized them. They were politicians. They were, nobility. They were clergy. They were people from the elite in Belgium, but not celebrities. And now they were bringing in the celebrities for my performance. And there was like a week long of activities in Italy, and an estate in Italy. And so I had a performance there for the in crowd, and a lot of the people that were there were celebrities. And meanwhile, I was also sleeping with, because now I didn't think that they were losers anymore. and I thought now from my persona that I liked it, and I wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have the distance anymore. So I thought I was having sex with these men, but I was also reporting still to David Rockefeller the whole time about their sexual perversions, about their, what they liked sexually, or what their weaknesses were. And by that time, so what happened, I had been moved up then from the Belgian network to what I call the global elites, which is what I think Jeffrey Epstein was part of.
Mm-hmm.
And the program I didn't tell you about, is the most difficult one, is the Delta programming, which means that even as a child, you're forced into a situation, you're manipulated and pushed and forced into a situation where you have to kill.
Oh, wow. Did you have to do that?
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Wait, what method would they?
Yeah, did they have a certain way you had to do it?
Yes, I was given daggers. So I only used knives. I was taught to kill with knives. And the first situation after that training with watching those movies and everything, I got to pick a puppy from a litter. And I had that puppy with me for a few days. And unfortunately, I was commanded to kill that puppy.
Jesus
And this
Christ.
was not. Yes, it wasn't Hans Harmsen. It was some of the handlers there.
Yeah.
But of course, I refused.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so then they started to torture that puppy, and blame me completely. So ultimately, the way that I was then pushed into this was to make sure that this was going to be a mercy killing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And knowing that it would always be worse for the victim if I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned to be quick and effective. And of course, there's also, because of the trauma-induced dissociation that happens there, I had then a persona that would do that didn't feel anything.
So let me ask you, did you have to do that to an actual person? Can you talk about that or no?
Yes. I mean,
do you want to talk about that?
it? I can talk about it because I understand now that I was a victim also.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to talk about it, sure.
That's hard to come to.
Yeah, I bet. I can't imagine.
Long.
But
It's why I waited so long to speak out. I was already 50 when I started speaking out publicly. And the only reason I had been pressured to speak out in the 80s when the Dutroux case was a thing in Belgium. And I knew that I wasn't ready. And that had to do with my incredible guilt complex. So I was made to kill there a lot. And Hans Harmsen, you have to know, was the director of Pro Familia, which is the Planned Parenthood of Germany.
Oh, wow.
And so I was made to kill. The training there was on very small babies.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute.
Wow, that's incredible.
They trained you on
like an abortion type thing, if they for people that didn't want
they were alive. They were brought to the basement. They were put on a sort of a metal table, and then I was going into that space. There were like 2 glass doors to get through to get to the room where that very small baby was barely alive but alive, and then I had to kill it.
My God.
Wow. How many times do you think you had to do this?
Just that time there, I had to do that about 30 times.
Wow, that is incredible. I can't believe. And how old were you when they made you do this?
9.
You were 9. Oh my God.
But I have to tell you that is part and parcel of being part of this network.
Oh yeah.
Because of the rituals. So I was trained to kill in case, because I was going to be a spy. So I might sometimes have to do it. And I was trained to do it for rituals.
Wow.
So basically, if you would have continued this, you would have, as you got older, been a a lethal weapon for these people.
That's right. And also made them a lot of money, because when you're the whole thing about the fame is that the famous woman is basically a very high paid prostitute. And I don't even know if the people that, had sex with me then, the pedophiles then, when I was 9 and I was not even, and 10, and when I was not even on the, thankfully I was never on the world stage. Thankfully I was never outed by them on the world stage, or it would have been so much harder to leave.
Yeah.
But I basically, I was forced to do that. And if you want to be part of this group, you have to want the fame. You have to want the power so badly that you like it, that you just get, there's a release. Pedophiles feel release from, I think, the trauma that was put on them. Killers feel a release from all the frustration that's ever worked them. And in the moment of the kill, you can have a release.
And that's why they do it. Yeah.
Great.
Let me tell you real quick. I just wanted to say, we have about 14 minutes left, but if it's okay with you, we'd like to just extend this till maybe, like another hour or so. We'd like to be able to have you get through your story. I want you to be able to tell the ending also, if that's okay with you.
Yes, absolutely. If you can extend it for another hour, another time, you mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, like right now it's 7:45. We can go until 9 o'clock, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
Keep going. I don't have any words right now.
Yeah,
as I'm listening
no,
to this, it's probably one of the most incredible things I've ever heard. Awful things I've ever heard. The fact that you're able to tell this story and these stories is amazing. You're an extremely brave person, and I couldn't even imagine. I can't imagine it.
No, and
that's a good thing that you can't imagine it. I think that's healthy.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. If you want to, you were being groomed to be this singer. This singer in France. Is that what you said? It was in France.
Yes, in France.
Okay. Do you want to start from there, or wherever you picked up last?
Well, the Delta training was, to as I said, to be part of this in crowd, you have to kill. And children are trained to kill as young as 3 in these networks. A lot of people that are born into these networks, they put their own children through these things. And they, when I went to David Rockefeller and I complained about the mind control training, he said it was to make you strong.
Yeah.
And I had to admit that it was extremely effective. I was a different person. I was completely believing that I was the persona that he was trying to make out of me. I was completely identified. The only thing was the violence. And ultimately, I was tested on, was I a willing participant, which you have to be, you have to give your will. And did I just want sheer violence, or was I coerced? Because there can be adult victims that are coerced to do things, absolutely, that are in the network, but they're not going to have this kind of platform, because the idea and what they wanted to make me into, it was to serve the pedophile agenda. Just imagine the French singer, actress that's naked all the time, but revered at the same time. And then, the men that she's with, and then of course she's owned by somebody. So she not only privately, has all these private affairs and spying on these men and all of that, but also she's a mouthpiece for the network and their agenda. And so I was obviously going to be used for the pedophile agenda, for the sexualization agenda, and, everything having to do with romance and sex and connecting love to romance, which, and taking it away from the divine and bringing it right into, sex, basically, through romance. Like, that's the highest kind of love that you can experience. But I also had to, be, as a child, sexualized, turning on all the men and making it okay for the men to, be lecherous after a little girl. And then I had to, as a young woman, I certainly would have had to play with, act like a little girl and wear the little whatever sexy clothes to give this idea that boys would be so lucky, that they could
Mhm.
be with a woman like me. So, and then whatever my views I would publicly express, it would be completely controlled by
Yeah.
my owner, who is then part of this greater network that I would just be a mouthpiece for.
And you would never give anything away. You would never give somebody the wrong information that they didn't want you to give ever.
Exactly. If you do that, you're out, or that's not you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I was so programmed and trained that
Right.
if I fully identified with my persona and I wanted the power so bad that I could do anything, including the violence, if I
Mhm.
wanted the violence more because I wanted the power. And this comes from trauma and losing sense of self and losing, when you get traumatized as a child, children are innocent and they have light, and you're the light of God. You come in, you're the light of God.
Mhm.
When you get projected upon right away, and that light is never reflected, that innocence is never seen by the people that are around you, then you may not know that you have it. And that's those people. They're sort of banned from themselves and their inner truth and
Mhm.
God, and sort of relegated to this darkness where I think it's terrible when a person has no self-esteem and then needs power and position and all these things that the world has to offer in order to give themselves even a sense of self, except that because it's not real, they have to prove it, and it becomes this hierarchy that we're in, where
Mhm.
the sickest people have clumped together, through their not friendships, but blackmail mostly.
Now you're talking about Congress.
I'm talking about the power elites.
Yeah, I know.
And the
Yeah.
power behind the scenes and behind Congress, and people are owned. So
Mhm.
I'm talking about exactly how the world is turning because of that. But yes, you have to be you have to be 100% in line with their agenda. Otherwise, obviously, which I wasn't. And then ultimately I was tested on that. And then when I failed that test,
Oh, wow. What happened?
I was reprogrammed. And
Really?
when I failed that test, I was reprogrammed, and I was literally chained in a dungeon, thrown in a cage, chained inside a dungeon, and reprogrammed to make me feel so bad about myself.
Mhm.
Now, the killing, before I was praised for the killing
Mhm.
because I was fast. Obviously, I wanted to end the suffering, but then you get praised for it, and it just makes it so much harder. Now I was being made to feel that I'm evil for the
Mhm.
killing.
And they made it to where you're now, since you had to be reprogrammed, you're no longer going to be the singer person. Now you're going to be something else.
Now, and I think they didn't kill me because the programming, it should have gotten me dead at a young age as a maybe drug addicted prostitute or something, and homeless,
Mhm.
something like that. That was the programming. But I heard that when you're from a bloodline, they like to keep you alive and maybe see if they can use you in another way. So I
Yeah.
was basically sent back to Belgium and that reprogramming, I tell you, at first I didn't accept it, but for the days that I was there and the torture that I suffered, again, it just goes very, very deep because of the trauma. And then I felt very guilty and very bad and evil. And then I was sent back to basically I was hosed off. This was in Germany, in Berlin. I actually found the building where this happened quite recently.
What year is this, Anneke?
1973.
1973. Okay.
Yes. And I found the building where this happened. And I'll tell you something that I haven't said before. It's really out there again, but I always remembered that I was, for this persona, it was really a problem that I have brown eyes. So they
Mhm.
try to make my eyes blue. and I was receiving shots in my eyes.
Oh, wow.
And there's actually parts of my eyes are blue because I received some shots. And I read in Mengele's Wikipedia page, it actually says that he was experimenting with that, shooting adrenaline in people's eyes to make them blue.
Yeah.
So I was receiving those shots, and I was at this, which was the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute in Berlin. I was in this building that was then Freie Universität, Free University of Berlin. That's where this happened. I was reprogrammed there, and I was there to get the shots in my eyes. But I saw David Rockefeller there. I saw people from the network there, and yes. So
what were they reprogramming you to do?
Well, to lose. First, I had what's called no-fail programming, so that there's no way I could fail in anything that I would do. My persona was just going to go right ahead, and there's no way that I could not get there. Like and then they would also create the platform. So you have this, what seems like charisma, but it actually is completely controlled. And now I was getting the opposite program, that I would fail. So that I could never have success, and that I would never be successful in anything.
So what was the point of programming? They did all that programming for you to build you up so you could be what they wanted, the spy, the singer. Yes. What was the point of then getting rid of all that programming and tearing you down?
Because I wasn't the right fit. I was for this, and I work with other survivors, and most survivors, they get programmed much younger. And I was really quite old to be programmed, and I was a project of David Rockefeller. And he really didn't want to get rid of me because he was very proud of what he had created.
So basically he was keeping you alive.
Alive, but not for him. I never saw him after that.
Really? You never saw him again?
No. I was discarded. I was completely discarded from that inner circle, from what I call the global network.
Then
once they were reprogramming you, they kicked you out.
Yeah.
Completely kicked out, reprogrammed to fail, and then kicked out, and then back to the Belgians.
Okay, so if you want to pick it up from there, if you want to tell the rest of it from there, that's incredible.
Yes, well, that's where my book begins. So I wrote my book beginning there, and what happened, what happened sometime after is that I was used then in the Belgian network for the VIPs that were coming around. I don't get a sense that Van den Boeynants ever found out what had really happened, only that he had handlers drive me to all these places all the time. So the Belgians became like in service to David Rockefeller.
Wow.
And one of the perpetrators there, his name is Benoit de Bonvoisin. His nickname is the Black Baron. And he was very close to Van den Boeynants, and they were together in certain groups that were Le Cercle. They were anti-communist groups, actually. That they were, but they were actually very right-wing, so really close to fascism. They were connected in that way, and they did business. I know that the Bonvoisin did business with Rockefeller, and so this was sort of the result of their gift was me, and then they did business together afterwards, and then they had a relationship, but then this whole time they were just taking me places for him, and then that just stopped. And then in the Belgian network, I came across a young man who was taken there for the first time by his own father. He was 20 and he was a young gangster. And so my book really is the story of that last year that I was in the Belgian network, when I had been groomed and trained to be an elite sex slave. And I had to then, and then this gangster initially was just interested, curious to learn about how the network was working. So initially, I think when he was taking me apart and he was taking me aside. He ended up protecting me for quite a while. And I think it was that he wanted the sex to come from me, which he later realized would have never happened. But there was a 6-month period where I was protected by this gangster within the network. And that was very difficult, to be protected and not be raped, because, when you stand out in a situation like that, it's really very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the sex began, you could say it became extremely violent. He became extremely violent, and a year later, I was going to be killed. And because of him, because he had dropped me, and the person that was in charge of my torture was Michel Nihoul, who was one of the defendants of the Dutroux case.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So
he got
why
off.
did they drop you?
Yeah, he dropped me because, well, I guess he was through with me. I mean, I was very damaged physically in other ways, and it became a really crazy. All of his own trauma was placed on me. I mean, the violence was crazy. He put a gun to my head. Well, it's in my book that I wrote about in my book, and I was extremely attached to him as well, because he also had some other qualities, that he wasn't completely dead like most of the others. And eventually, when my torture began and he was watching it, he was actually laughing. I had another one of these moments where I just became defiant. And in my defiance, he had a moment too, and he then went to negotiate to get me out. And so the torture that was led by Michel Nihoul, who was forcing other children to torture me, it should be clear.
Wow.
That was
he negotiated to get you out of that?
While he was in another room negotiating to get me out, which I didn't know. Yeah.
So what happened from that point when he was doing the negotiations? What happened after that?
Well, the torture was stopped, and I was extremely badly hurt. And well, see, I write about it in a book. It's a lot of pages because it's difficult to talk about, because, again, I mean, everything is so extreme. I understand that when I'm speaking about it. But yes, it was. So I was told I couldn't just leave. People are not just let go like that. So this is Van den Boynans in his office. And basically I was in very bad shape, but I was basically pushed into a situation where I had to kill a child.
Wow. To get out? Is that for you to be able to get out?
Yes. Not that I cared about my life. I can promise you that I did not care about my own life, but it was, my training was, I know that it's going to be worse for the victim if I don't do it.
That's
true.
true.
They're going to torture that person.
Yeah. Yeah. How old was the child?
Yeah, I was going to ask, how old was the child?
8, 9.
And how old were you at this point?
11.
Oh, wow.
What
that must, was it a boy or a girl? Do you remember, like, in detail?
Yes, I remember in detail. The thing about trauma is that because of the intensity of the moment, you remember everything. And I particularly remember, also because of the mind control training, I remember conversations. I have an auditory memory, and I remember conversations to the letter. And I do remember this girl, of course. Yes, I remember very much. I think she was Eastern European. She was 8, 9 years old. She had very big hair and a very small face. And it was very clear that, no hair on my body would have wanted anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But I knew that I would be the better executioner, I guess.
The better option over torture, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, when I made that choice, it was never really a choice, but there was still torture that followed, and it was really awful.
Torture on you,
No,
On the child?
on the child.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that. It's your story is just unbelievable. I mean, it's incredible, you know. And oh, why don't you show people the book that you were talking about actually also? Because
yes,
yeah.
sure. Yeah, so I am a writer, so I think that's I'm not a survivor who wrote down her story. I'm a writer, and I wrote my story. And that's me at 11 years old. That was just a few months before what I was just talking about.
Oh wow.
That picture was taken. So it was a situation where I knew I was going to be killed. It was very bad. And things were really, really bad. And
Quest
yes,
for
I am a writer. I also have a blog, and that's free. My book is not very expensive, but
Tell people how they can get the book and where they can see your blog. Tell everybody that.
Well, my website is just my name, AnnekeLucas.com. So it's very easy to find. And then the book is on Amazon, but you can go to my website because sometimes people can't find it. So if you go to my website, you can find everything. You can find the blog. You can find all the links for the books from all countries, and yes, and I hope that the book brings you a little bit of that. The writing itself sort of holds you as you move through these extreme circumstances. And I know that all of this is unbelievable because when you're not a psychopath, and when you're not raised by psychopaths, this is inconceivable. And people with a heart can't conceive of any of this. But I work with other survivors, and I know that I'm far from alone, and that the crazy thing is that there's so many similarities. It's not everybody's story is very different, but there's so many similarities in our experience because this network operates the same way everywhere.
Well, coming to that, how do you think? Obviously, this doesn't end with you. It doesn't end with Jeffrey Epstein. This goes on. How many do you think? How did he still these networks? They still show up. How many do you think are out there? Are there main ones? Are there big ones? Are there smaller ones? What do you think?
Based on your experience? Yeah, based on your
the
experience.
experiences you've had, how many do you think are still out there?
Many, because the way that it works is either through Satanism or through other secret clubs. Usually every little town has a little group of people that then get positions of power in that little town, and they're connected like a spider web. So in Belgium, there's people from the working class that are part of this, and they do the dirty jobs, whatever, but they're in the network, like those pimps that came in, that infiltrated in our house.
Like your housekeeper.
Yeah. He was part of the network.
So
it didn't end, with her, and then that goes to the national network, which was the Belgian network, or it goes to a big town like New York would have certainly several, but they're all connected. And so what I say then, when I was in the global, that's central. That's where everybody wants to end up with, with those who pull the strings behind the scenes, behind the world stage.
So tell me, okay, so he was negotiating to get you out of it, and you had to kill this small girl. So what happened from that point?
The gangster. Okay, so we went to a different house for this murder, torture and murder, and this night of torture. Afterwards, after everything was done there, this gangster drove me back home, and he gave me instructions for life. So you have to understand, I was programmed first to be a media figure. Then I was programmed to fail and to end up as a probably in the gutter somewhere. And then his instructions were another reprogramming. He gave me instructions for life that I followed to the T. that had to do with not becoming a prostitute. Just as he was driving me home in his Porsche, he was just telling me, never become a prostitute, never take money to sleep with anybody, never do it. Don't become a drug addict, never buy drugs. You can take them if they're given to you, but don't do anything to get them. So he gave me this very precise list of instructions, which I followed so carefully. And it really kept me, and of course it included never say anything to anybody.
Yeah.
Forget everyone, never speak of this. But in my young adult life, these instructions was what I was going by.
So when you got home, when he dropped you back off at home, obviously your mom was still there at this point. So what happened then? She didn't try to sell you anymore? I mean, because you were still 11 years old at this time.
Exactly. Well, she was very angry when she realized that she wasn't going to get her usual calls anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then she did bring me back to a network situation once, in a castle again, with some people that had just been on a hunt in the morning. So I was abused again in the network one last time. But ultimately my mother, to silence me, because after the torture and after everything that happened, I was aware, and I was also covered with wounds from the torture.
Oh, yeah.
So it was just right in front of my face. Now I have the scars, but then I had these big crust, these, what do you call it? Well, these brown crusty things on my, all over my body.
Scabs, like
Scabs.
scabs.
Scabs, yes. So my mother, in her mental illness denial type, these scabs did not exist.
Mm-hmm.
But she was keeping me home from school. So we were home together, and I was aware. I wasn't dissociating. I wasn't going into, pleasing her mode.
Mm-hmm.
And so she ended up sexually abusing me.
Your mother did?
My mother, yeah, to get her control back.
So a lot of the things that you experienced, including with your mother, had all to do with trauma-based mind control.
Yes.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So then when this happens with your mom, what happens after that? I mean, are you when is the point when you're finally away from all this abuse?
I was away from it. I mean, basically she molested me, and the shame of that was so intolerable, because she was shameless, real. So I felt all this incredible shame.
Was it different because it was your mother? After everything you went through, was it still different because this is your mother now?
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes. Like, I took that shame on, and I was back into pleasing mode. But these instructions, even though I did forget, these instructions were in the back of my mind. So part of it was also leave home as soon as you can. So at 15, I started sort of, left home. At 16, I lived with a 34-year-old man.
Wow.
That wasn't even considered pedophilia.
No.
But
so,
that's how I got out.
How did you get to the point now? Because I know you said you didn't talk about it until you were 50. It's the first time you were able to start talking about it. How did you get to the point where you felt okay enough to talk about it? Because going through stuff like that is just unbelievably traumatizing. So to get to the point now where you're able to speak about it, how did you get to that point?
Yes. Well, the Dutroux case was 1996. And I had been I was getting flashbacks in the 80s. And meanwhile, I was having a very dysfunctional life. I was always in some loop of a program that I didn't understand at all, but I was acting on it. But my life wasn't working in any way. And I was doing menial jobs to try to get by. I would get hired because the men were hiring me, but then I wasn't doing the job very well. And then I got fired. And that's how I got by. Getting hired because I could attract the men, and then getting fired because I wasn't really good at any of these jobs.
So let me just stop. You're using your programming is kind of working this whole time.
all the
without you
time.
even realizing
That's
where. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So one of the things that was happening is that several men started immediately after we met to speak of me as the woman of their life. Well, that was how I was programmed. I was supposed to do that.
Mm.
And that was how Hans Harmsen had actually instilled that program through a lot of drugs and near-death experiences, that there's some psychic part in me that makes a man, hypnotizes the men in believing that I'm their soulmate. And that's, of course, what was needed for these powerful, to attract these powerful men from the platform of the famous singer.
It's like master manipulation.
So
Exactly. But also unconscious. It's not
yeah, yeah, definitely.
manipulation that I would even know, because I just was observing that these men were that they were talking as if I was their soulmate, when obviously, that I knew that it wasn't the case. I've not if like several in a row.
Yeah, yeah. So
Or
your job, let's go back to you were doing these menial jobs and just trying to get by, and you said nothing in your life was working at the moment. So
No.
what happened from that point?
Well, I went into therapy and I was already having flashbacks, but so the flashbacks were followed with the suicide programming also. But then the next thing after that is I was in therapy with therapists that couldn't really handle, I couldn't bring those flashbacks there because, well, first of all, I didn't want to believe them, but also they would not have believed them either.
Yeah.
Some didn't. So the first 10 years I was with a therapist who was very open to abuse, sexual abuse from men, but she could not handle my mother and she could not handle the extreme abuse. So I actually did have some healing from things that happened with men that were sort of touching on the network, but not really me having to believe that there was that it was in that context. And familial also, so incest. So I was working on sexual abuse, and in the first time I got this in therapy, this realization of this different perspective, really, because I was in the child perspective where the abuser didn't do anything wrong. And when it hit me that, oh my goodness, that I was an innocent child and that they had abused me, I started, the first time I started to cry, and I was grieving for weeks. 3 weeks I was crying. And this morning, through this morning, I was beginning to open spiritually. I started to understand things. I started to feel that there's a greater truth, that there's God, that I wouldn't have called it God at the time, but I started to feel the beginning of spirit, and I knew that there was something there. The insights, the understanding that I received was very important. And so that's kind of what kept me going. And after 10 years, after the Dutroux case, burst on the world scene, and I found out about it, then I had a context for my flashbacks. And then I found a therapist afterwards that was able to, she didn't know anything about this network or anything. She just was open-minded. And then she became like a substitute parent, like the safe person.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how did you get to the point now where you were able to talk about it at 50? What made you at 50 years old, what made you say, okay, now's the time I can do this?
Yes, that very moment. And I'm writing, I'm creating a book of my blog posts. It's called Seeds Beneath the Snow. And this is what I've been writing about. Your question, and you've asked it several times already. And that's what I've been writing about in the introduction, because that moment was so important. It was finally overcoming my guilt, my enormous guilt complex over murdering, and understanding the last puzzle piece was that I had forgotten that I had been programmed, because I could not forgive myself. I had the memories, and I said, I cannot forgive myself. I still, even though I was a child, I shouldn't have done it. I should have just said no. And I forgot the piece of the program where
you were forced to do it. Yeah.
where and how I was manipulated, and knowing that I knew it would be worse for the victim if I didn't do it. That was what worked for me. Other survivors have other experiences, but that's what made me do it.
You were finally able to realize and feel that you were the victim of this. It wasn't something that you wanted to do.
That I never, ever wanted to do it at all.
Exactly. Wow.
So going back to the puppy, to the dog, that's where it started.
Yes, yeah. And I didn't remember that puppy at the time, but I just had this understanding that there had been something before where it was made very clear that it would be worse for the victim, and that I knew that at that time. That's what was going back, and that was this last puzzle piece. And it was days of writing. I'd been journaling for days and days, and it was this sort of revelation. And I thought, okay, well, and the thing is, I wasn't ever planning to go public or anything, and it certainly never planned that this would be my life. You know, seems obvious maybe, because what else am I going to do? But I was working in the prisons at the time, and I was being interviewed about my work in the prisons. And what happened is, I had been interviewed before, but I just avoided talking about my personal reasons for being there. And so I just answered the question, and then that became the article. And that was the first time going public in 2013.
How did that make you feel?
You know, there we are. I wasn't really too scared or anything. And ultimately, I think the fact that I was trained to be a media personality, I was trained to interview, helped a great deal, because for other survivors, it is beyond the pale impossible.
Talk about irony. Talk about ironic.
Yes.
Imagine, right?
Isn't that a nice irony?
That is ironic, isn't it really? Wow. I mean,
So,
it actually has turned out that that's how you're helping people.
Yeah.
That what they put you through, as barbaric, sadistic, and disgusting, it's actually something that's helping you now to help other people.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Thank you.
Let me ask, how are your relationships now with like men? Say, are you able to have normal relationships with men now now that you've kind of been able to come to terms with things?
No.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And I'm celibate. That's it. So
Okay.
I've been celibate for 12 years or so. And that was also very important in the healing, to be completely celibate, to also find that innocence back.
Yes.
From before, you know.
Do you think that celibacy is something that you're going to do for the rest of your life, or do you want to try to get back into a normal relationship with a man, or do you want to be celibate for the rest of your life?
No, I think sex is heavily overrated anyway, and I really do, because that all the sex programming, like everywhere you look, it's everywhere.
That's true.
It's on purpose. It's to turn everybody into an addict and away from God. And I'm a spiritual person, so I have no problem being celibate. And I don't think that so for me, it's like this. If it were meant for me spiritually to have a relationship, I would, but I don't think I ever need to be sexual again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, forget the sexual part, but just like an actual relationship with another man. Do you think it's possible to, after everything that's happened to you, to have like just a normal, maybe like a family type relationship, like you got maybe a husband one day or anything like that? Is that possible?
I'm very healed, and I have very close friends and real intimacy and everything. And
good.
You know, I'm capable of having intimate relationships, but I just don't think that I want to be sexual again, unless it's needed for my healing in some way, you see?
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And that's what I was talking about, the intimacy. Are you able to, and not sexual intimacy, just like emotional, are you able to
Absolutely, yeah. I never have fights with people, you know. I'm very I'm healed. I'm very healed. Not that all that dysfunction. and all these little stories I was getting into, these loops I was getting into from all the programs. So it's a lot of work. I can tell you that a lot of my young adult life, and okay, so it's more than 30 years now. It's more like 37 years that I've been healing, that I've been in.
Wow.
37 years of healing. That when you get into this stuff, like when I found this therapist finally, and we really were going into this, it's like you can barely walk. You can barely get out of bed. You can really not barely function. It is so incredibly heavy to grieve and mourn all that, the pain, the loss, the betrayals,
And the loss of your childhood, basically.
All at once, kind of coming back in waves. In a way.
Yes. Oh, when it comes, it really hits you. and so going through all of that, but every time when the insight comes, and then there's this period, and then there's some internal message like, I know I'm good. And I think it's a spiritual, ultimately it's spiritual. It's my, like, I don't, it's not like that for everybody, but when you're having to do with this satanic abuse, the only antidote is is God. You have to turn to God.
Yeah.
When you speak to other survivors, what's the common thing that stands out? Everybody's story is different, right? Your story is I got to be honest, the most horrific thing I've ever heard. I have to be honest. I mean, it is. But what is the common thread that you find with other people you're trying to help now?
I think the most amazing thing, it's very beautiful to have these connections and to be able to be there for people on their journey, is the courage of the survivors, the incredible courage. These are people that are not public. You'll never see them, but the courage that they have in plowing through these extreme events of their childhoods. And every one of the people that I work with, even as children, often we were not on board. You see, I'm here because even as a child, I was not okay with it. And this seems to be what these survivors have in common, that real incredible courage that made it so that they're not part of this network, but in fact healing and trying to make a life for themselves outside of the network.
Listen, the work you're doing, I mean, I couldn't even. Are you still yourself in therapy now? Do you still see a therapist? Well, that'll probably never stop for you. No, I keep having memories also, or they fill out, or there are things that you might not have even come to your mind yet that have happened to you. Well, everything that comes, again, it's spiritual growth. So the memories that do come is because I need them, and I'm sure there's a lot of memories that I won't need.
And you still have flashbacks and stuff like that?
Yeah, or body memories, or things come in different ways, and then it's this very uncomfortable time when you don't know what something is about, but you're noticing things of it. And this is a lot of mindfulness in noticing my own reactions also, because I'm coming from a part that's been created in mind control, and that part is having thoughts. It's all on the mental level, because I keep working and I'm never not functional anyway. So I'll keep working, but meanwhile I'm noticing what is happening on a mental emotional level, and I'm observing it. And then, you never know how it's going to work out, but there's this time of not knowing and asking questions. And then, something that may settle, something that may come. And then there's the question, is it real? Is it not? You can never just accept what comes to you. But I do know that when things come to you, it would be crazy to just accept that is true. But when it's real, then there's an integration that happens and your life gets better. Even if it gets hard and very difficult for a while, it does get better. And, when people say, of course I get attacked a lot and called a liar a lot, but when you make things up, you just disintegrate, as a person, and you become mentally ill. And I would never be able to speak in this way, for example, if that was made up.
I don't think you can make this stuff up. That's how I see it. When I listen to this, I don't think this could be made up.
No, it's too detailed.
Yeah,
and it's too crazy.
Right. I don't think, to make this up. No, this is stuff you don't make up.
Thank you.
Wow. That's that is an unbelievable story. And to see how you were able to get past that and have to, be the woman that you are today, and, be able to come on and tell your story. And, we had a lot of interest in this because obviously what's going on now, with the whole Epstein thing and the files and all that sort of thing, you went through this stuff long before any of this happened. Long before you were like, going through. So, what these people with the children there were going through. And, so that's why there's so much interest in your story, because it's a story that a lot of people, they may not know a lot about it, like be able to relate to it. But, the resilience, like this person says here on the chat, the resilience of the human soul is incredible. So to see you be able to bounce back from all that is the amazing part. And the fact that it has a good ending. If it didn't have a good ending, it wouldn't be something that a lot of people would want to hear.
No, that's right.
No, it's incredibly inspirational. Just the fact that you're here, the fact that you're telling this story, the fact that you're helping people with their own issues that they've had through their life. And let me ask you, it's not just women, it could be men too. Do you also speak to men who have been victims of this type of abuse?
Yes, a lot less, but yes.
So tell me, where do you find these people? Are you like hooked up with like an organization or anything like that?
No, it's just me. But
do they come to you?
People find me, yes. I've been out for a long time, and people have picked up my story here or there from one or another interview, and then now my book. And yes, so people find me. And I work with people privately, obviously, but I also, over the time, I've developed a healing modality that is based on my experience of being able to measure power, as I had to do as a child. I had to measure who was the most powerful person in the room, right?
True.
To stay safe. So it is to look at power dynamics, both on the global scale and on a personal level. So how we interpersonally use power dynamics, put people above us or put them down, from where a lot of the division is created, also from having to, being invited sort of to put people down. I say that's part of the mass mind control, when you're invited to judge other people. And I'm not saying seeing what there is, because there's the reality and you can discern it. But I mean, when there's some sort of value judgment of intolerance, and I'm not saying tolerance for crimes, but that there's a value judgment there, that there's something that it hits inside of you. To look at power projections, basically upward and downward, and to then go and find what is behind that for each person individually, for everyone, for survivors, but a lot also for providers, because my journey through, the therapy world was quite something, with a lot of people very unqualified to really, truly to hold space for people, and using position. When somebody uses their position to, that I sort of become like one of their stable or something, and when people projected down on me, I always felt it very strongly. And I didn't, and when a therapist does it, because they need I know it's related to their trauma when they do that. So yeah. I talk a lot. I do a lot of my online programs are also for providers. That's the unconditional model that you mentioned right at the very beginning.
And is that at AnnikeLucas.com? Is that where they can find that? And for anybody that has anybody that's, you know, got a similar thing, like anybody that's been a victim of these kind of things, can they contact you there at your website to try to, you know, anybody that's watching this that has like that kind of thing that needs to talk, or somebody that you want to help, something like that? Is that where they contact you?
Yes, but careful, because I do get a whole lot of I get a lot of emails, and so
Oh, you
when you
do?
go, I do, and so a lot of things is I can't do. You know, I can't do a lot. I can't do everything. But what I
Yeah.
can do is meet people for a counseling session, for like a 2-hour counseling session. That's really what I can do.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. I mean, that's a lot just right there. Just, you know, being able to meet people and do that kind of thing, because a lot of people don't take time out of their lives to do things like that. And is it healing for you to be able to help others?
Always. It's unbelievable. You think you go, I had that in the prisons too. I went there to help other people, and I just couldn't believe, because when something is from the heart to heart, it just, there's the interaction is just there's
You
truth.
can't fake that. You can't fake it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is beneficial for both people always. And it is unbelievable how things that are happening in my life are reflected all the time through the people that I'm working with.
I had to ask you, have you, since you became public and you've come out and said all this stuff, has there ever been a time where you've been threatened by anybody and you've been in fear of your life because of the things you're exposing and put out there?
Thank you for asking that question. And the answer is yes.
Do you
So-
want to talk about that? I mean, do you want to tell us anything about that? And
Yeah.
or what about the people in your network, the people that know who you are? That are there still people alive from that network, or
They
maybe
don't
like
have to be alive. The network is alive and well. So it does I mean, they don't have to be alive, but yeah. So what happens is I've had very weird visits. I had somebody literally rowing up on a boat here by a river, rowing up on a boat in my backyard and pulling out the binoculars and the lens, the camera with the long lens.
Whoa.
And I ran to them, you see,
Mhm.
because I wasn't scared, so I ran to them, and then, you know, that's just a small intimidation thing. But then I once had somebody meet me at the airport behind security,
Mhm.
and then just coming at me, and I thought that person looked really bad. Like my thought was that he looks like a satanic pedophile. That was my thought in my head.
Yeah.
With very dark black circles under his eyes, and then he came to me and said, "Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to?" And then he basically said exactly where I live.
Mhm.
So the message is, we know where we can always read, you can always find you, we know where you are, we can always get to you, we know that. And you know, in subtle ways, I was always told, if you say this name, you know, yeah, we can kill you anytime.
Mhm.
That's the idea, is we can kill you anytime. It's obviously not on a letter with, you know, a signature that I can take to the police.
Yeah,
Right.
no, it never works that way, does it? They never just write a letter, sign their name, put a thumbprint on there or anything, do they? That's
That is
unfortunate.
I would just say, exercise your Second Amendment rights, as I hope you do, and always have your head on a swivel, as we all should. That's what I would say. And you know, as I said, the courage of you to do this is incredible.
Even with the threats, and you're still doing it.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
amazing. People have an interesting question. With all the experience, obviously, in your knowledge, what's going on with Epstein? Do the people that, some of them that are accused, are there people that are accused that stick out to you? You don't have to name names, but that stick out to you to say, yeah, I can really believe that one, or I definitely, you know, you understand what I'm saying, but you don't have to
Oh,
name
yeah.
names. I'm just saying, do people stand out to you? Certain people that are in the news now.
Yeah, I think we're still just touching on the beginning of this story, really. And obviously, with all these redactions, there's really not much left that really can be used properly, even though, you know, what is happening is still cosmetic, I say. It's still cosmetic. And for me, it's pretty much all of them that for me is like,
Very believable, yeah. So, but it's amazing how the Epstein experience kind of mirrors what you did, because you had the experience with the cameras inside the rooms and being the spies, where you had to, kind of size up these people, get information from them. And that's kind of what everybody thinks the whole Epstein operation was, like a blackmail type operation that they used to blackmail the more powerful people in the world.
It's the same network. I mean, Epstein was in the Trilateral Commission that was started by David Rockefeller.
Yeah. Wow,
He
that's
was also
incredible.
connected to the Rothschilds. I mean, it's the same network. He was not the head of that network, but he was very busy, obviously, for the network.
Well, now
Wow.
today, Anna Paulina Luna, the congresswoman from Florida, and she was coming out and saying now they have some women that they think became operatives in a way.
Well, that was what I was supposed to become.
Correct.
I was supposed to become an operative, and
Right.
that's important to, there's legality, and there's obviously, when you have a 20-year-old that is doing things, you see, I was 10.
Yeah. Wow.
But I would have been 20 and I would have been 30. And
Right.
of course, it starts with coercion,
Mm-hmm.
but then where does it end? And I can tell you this, that it is very hard to leave. And I work with survivors that have been, victims of Jeffrey Epstein as well.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them have this, that they are extremely afraid of him, because he is really known inside, the circles of survivors as a programmer.
Wow.
So
So tell me,
programs.
that's incredible. So tell me, do you ever think about what your life would have been like had you not spoken up, when they were grooming you to be this singer and, to be this celebrity type person there, but also be a spy? Have you ever thought about what your life would be like if you hadn't have said something and then they, reprogrammed you the other way, if it would have kept going down the road that it was going?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, of course, because there were so many promises made and they were so detailed.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I regretted it for a while because, there's grief. There was grief there too, like,
Mm-hmm.
Having fame and having a yacht and whatever, it seems really nice when you're, I don't know. I feel complete now. I'm very happy. I wouldn't want that at all. But for a while there, that seemed like a nice,
It makes sense. Yeah.
And
No, you're right. It would seem like a nice option. And it makes sense that you would feel, regret or something that you didn't get, that you didn't go down that road and
Yeah.
went down this road. But at least now, you're out, you're safe.
When I put myself through that, it was sort of an exercise to put myself through having that life,
Mhm.
because it's a split life. So, and it's for many celebrities, it is like that you have a front, you're presented in a certain way. You're adored by everybody. There's a lot of, people that look up to you and think you're the best thing in the world and think you're wonderful.
Mhm.
You yourself never believe that, because you know who you are, and that is not that you're platformed. So
Yeah.
you know that their adoration on the one hand, you're addicted to the adoration and the upward projection from people, the love that people give you.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's not real.
Mm.
And I think that dichotomy, a lot of celebrities live in that anyway. And I think ultimately I would have killed myself, because the split, having to continue to do harm,
Mhm.
having to participate in horrific rituals. And you don't, there is such a dissociation necessary. And again, the ones that are most visible and that are, that have success for decades, like they always get the good press, and they always, you see their face, and they get the movie, and they get for decades long. There's no way that somebody like that is not that type of person that has done what they need to do.
So that you think a lot of the celebrities out there now are kind of like the way you were. They're being platformed because of things that they can do off stage, things that they have done.
Completely. Have you ever known a celebrity to say anything real about what happens behind the scenes?
No,
really.
no, it's always fake. Even when they do like, behind the scenes shows, it's never like anything, real. It's all just surface
It's about an
interaction.
image. It's
Yeah,
about an image.
and it's
Elvis.
about belonging. What they create is like one thing that I missed a lot from the network is that there's a sense of humor and fun. And that is part of belonging to this network. There is a part of that that's very fun. And it's about belonging. So when they have these behind the scenes looks, you're still on the outside and you're looking in, and they're having so much fun from being part of the same club. And meanwhile, I think we get laughed at a lot.
And in order to get into that club, though, you have to do the horrible things. They have to see how far you are willing to go, how far they can push you, because in order to get into that, in order to get that kind of stuff, you have to be willing to do these kind of things.
That's right. And you know what? Some people are born into it and they get groomed from them when they were children. And a lot of these stars now, the actresses and so forth, you can see they were actually doing that when they were children already. They're just network family children. But also, there's other people that come in from the outside, and the code for Hollywood, maybe it's changed now but is I'll do anything. So somebody who is saying I would have done anything to get that role is signaling that anything means really anything. And it's also code language to announce that you want to be part of the club, for example.
Wow.
When you were talking about the image, I found that interesting. Elvis Presley, his interview he did at Madison Square Garden, he said, it's one thing, there's the image. It's hard to live up to an image, but there's a human being.
Because the image is completely false, has nothing to do with the person. And my persona, so if I would have lived that life, my persona, that's not me. I'm happy today because I get to be me. Oh, what a joy. Because when you're a persona, and even if you believe everything in that persona, from within that persona, it's all false. And there's an emptiness there, and under the emptiness, complete depression, because there's so much trauma there. And the thing with the mind control is that you're meant to look fine. You're meant to look even happier than other people. And you're meant to even appear that you're doing better than other people. Obviously, they all do.
It's a lie. It's a complete lie. Yeah, it's a complete lie. One question I see one of our listeners said, and it's a good one. Why, in your opinion, do you think that some of the survivors took a payout with a non-disclosure agreement instead of banding together and naming a perpetrator? Why, in your opinion, do you think that happened with a lot of these people when it relates to Jeffrey Epstein?
Yes. Well, I think I would love to get some compensation.
I can understand that. I mean, big money is right in front of you. It's hard not to take.
Exactly. But I was invited by a lawyer under the Child Victims Act in 2020 to go after the Rockefeller estate, and I did not do that. I mean, we didn't end up doing it. I wanted to do it, but I did not want to take a settlement because I did not want to sign an NDA. So this, the New York lawyer, when he realized that I was sincere, because he went after this and we were already doing this and we were quite far along, but I could tell he didn't really get that when I said I don't want to take a settlement, I really don't.
He just wanted a settlement. He
just wanted to get a settlement because he was working contingency. I think so. Anyway, the day after I finally got through to him that I did not want the settlement, he quit. But I think it's understandable. But you have to understand that the money is the biggest tool of the network itself. And of course, settlements are all over the place, paid out to victims that can never say the names of their perpetrators, which protects the perpetrators. I understand that. And at the same time, I really understand if your life has been really harmed and really damaged, that you would want to take the compensation as well. So I don't want to blame anybody. I don't want to put any judgment out there, but I understand it. But it is a tool for the network to keep everybody silent and to hide the truth.
And it's one of their best tools. It's one of the ones that they use most often.
Our own Congress has a slush fund. I mean,
Yeah.
let's be real.
They're trying to expose some of the Congress, like Anna Luna is trying to expose that right now, trying to actually push through some kind of thing to make it to where they actually have to say the Congress people's names, the ones that have settled with the American taxpayers slush fund, because they do all their sexual acts and sexual harassment and all that stuff, and then they just pay them off. And in fact, they actually hire certain aides just so they can sexually harass them. And then they pay them off and they go away.
Yeah.
Oh, well, but the thing is, it's also been out in the open. Dennis Hastert was Speaker of the House under Bush, and he went to prison for pedophilia.
Wow.
But nobody knows it.
No, I didn't know that either.
It's not a story.
Why was that the biggest scandal?
Yeah.
It should
It's
be
buried.
massive.
It
Yeah.
should have been, but
Yeah.
nobody. It's in his wiki. It's on his Wikipedia page. You go look him up. It's there. He went to prison. So
Wow.
the network will protect you, but obviously there's a lot of arrogance in the network, and
There's a lot of powerful people. I mean, if they can keep a story like that quiet, Speaker of the House, jailed for pedophilia, if they can keep a story like that quiet, there's a lot of powerful people in this network.
well, it's that it's kept quiet, but it's also, I think, our trust ultimately in the media and even alternative media. We have to be very careful. Is to just not let this go. I think right now it's a really important time because I can already see on the social platforms that they want to move past. There's a lot being done to move past
it.
the
Yep.
Epstein files. Well, it should not happen when you start realizing that the people you may have voted for are actually pedophiles and worse. We cannot let this go. And I think it has to be the thing that where we say we have to have the courage to say that the world may actually be very different from what I thought it was, but we got to change it. This can't go on. We can't.
Well, that's why we wanted to have you on here, because your story can help keep something like that going. If people can actually hear a story of what happens in these type of networks, it can actually keep something like this going. More people will say, hey, we need to get justice for this kind of thing. We need to know who these people are.
Absolutely.
So your story is a big part of that.
But we need people to do it for the right reason. It shouldn't be to score points. It should be to find the truth.
Exactly. No division. It's not about division. That's a part of the mass mind control, to keep people divided.
Exactly.
So that you don't look to the source of the problem.
Exactly right.
I mean, I'm not saying unite because, but just that it has to be about the right reasons. Yes, we do it for the right reasons because we can't. It's not possible. You can't let these pedophiles, all the people that I came across in the network, or most of them, suffer from what I now understand are these complex personality disorder. That is narcissism and not pedophilia, but pedophilia is a part of a narcissist can be
like
pedophilia.
psychopathy or something.
And the psychopathy. So those people don't think they need help because they think they're better than others. They're superior. So all of this is coming out of mental illness. And I think, yes. And you can be very smart and psychopathic as well.
Oh, sure.
And all their resources and money goes into the creation of their images.
Yeah, that's
think
true.
about that. And
That's
image
incredible.
is a lie.
Wow. Let me ask you something. How many pedophiles do you think you came across in your time in the network? I mean, just like a guesstimate, do you think?
Well, I was raped by about 200 men.
Jesus, that's unbelievable. That is horrible. That's horrible. It's amazing, that you are the person you are today. You're smiling a lot. You seem happy. That's pretty amazing considering the past, but it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
I'm happy now.
Yes, yeah.
It did take a while.
Yeah. All things considered, there were other children, obviously, at the time when you were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 involved. Many of them didn't make it, I'm going to assume.
A lot of them were probably killed, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I personally, yes, some. But in general, in the network, I would say yes, a lot. Yes, a lot.
So
they forced you to also kill some of them as well. So it's terrible.
And
you're
children,
here for a reason. You're here for a reason, and I think this is the reason. You're here to help people. You're here to shine a light on this, to make people listen to things that you don't necessarily want to listen to. I'm going to say that speaking to you today, I'm glad to have met you. This has changed my life in a lot of ways, listening to you and all this stuff that you've told us, to be honest. And I appreciate it. I know Jack appreciates it. Our audience appreciates it. To be able to just speak about something like this as you do, and at the same time help people, is really an amazing thing. And God bless you for it.
thank you.
Yeah, and that's why we wanted to have you on, because your story is so important. And the fact that you were able to overcome all this and be the great person that you are today, it gives hope to other people that they can also overcome this. And it also keeps it shows people that that things like this do happen, because a lot of people just go through their lives. They don't even think about it. But things like this do happen. And it keeps the Epstein thing in the light also, to help people to try to force answers, to get answers for this sort of thing, because they see that there's a pedophile network with Epstein and they think, oh, they see it on the news or whatever, and they forget about it. But if you hear stories like this and know what really goes on in those kinds of things, that can make more people get involved. And I think that's why your story is so important.
Thank you.
Real quick, before we go, we got a couple of minutes left. Again, show everybody your book, tell them where they can get it, and tell them your website and everything.
Yes, so this is the book, Quest for Love, Memoir of a Child Sex Slave. You can find it on Amazon, but if you can't find it, my website is AnnekeLucas.com, which you have there. Thank you. And you can get more information there. Everything I do is on my website, basically. And so if if you're interested also in the workshops, or everything is in great detail explained on the network, and the blog, I have the blog is free. There you go. Thank you.
And it's also on the website too.
Yes.
Excellent. So everybody, make sure that you check out her blog. Make sure you check out her book. Go and buy her book, because this book is very interesting. It talks about the last year you're in this thing and how you get out of it and everything like that. And it goes into better detail. So if you want to know everything that happened right there and how she got out of this, how she became the person she is today, go check out this book, Quest for Love. It is incredible. Make sure you guys get that. And visit her website too, AnnekeLucas.com. It's very interesting. She's got a lot of great stuff on there, her blog, everything else. And we want to just thank you for coming on here. We really appreciate it. It's been great. Your story is harrowing. It's incredible. It's amazing. And the fact that you are here and who you are today is inspiring.
Oh, thank you both.
We really,
Anytime.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. So, our show ends in just a couple of minutes. So if you want to stay backstage, we would just like to talk to you just for a second after the show ends. So we're going to go ahead and put you backstage right now, and we'll be there in just a moment.
All good.
Thank you. Wow, that was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great story. The great ending, anyway, at least for her, to be the person she is now is wonderful.
Incredible. Like I said, it changed my life, those last 2 hours, listening to that and seeing how she is now and what she's doing. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And it just does shine a light. This should be the things that we're dealing with now with Jeffrey Epstein should be being done for the right reason, not to score points for one party or political party or this. It should be done to stop this. And there is still good work going on within our FBI that is trying to stop this stuff. That's the stuff we should be focusing on. They have stopped some child trafficking, but it's the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere. And believe it or not, if she knows this probably better than anybody, but people out there are pedophiles that you would never think are pedophiles, and they're everywhere. Have you ever gone? We've got 1 minute left. Have you ever gone on the registered sex offender website and see who lives around you? There are pedophiles, and those are just the people that were caught. Those are only the people that were caught. Imagine, just take those ones that were caught that you see and times it by 10 and imagine how many pedophiles live around you.
It's extremely frightening. And yes, I have checked those out because we had the experience on the platform with X with somebody that we dealt with who we found out was one of those people. So it is harrowing. It's hard to listen to, but you need to listen to it. You just
Absolutely.
do.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just glad we did this. I'm glad she was able to come on here and
2 hours she gave us. I mean, my God.
Yeah, 2 hours. It was only supposed to be an hour, but it's so engrossing when you're listening to what she's saying that you kind of don't want it to end,
Yeah.
So we kind of extended it an extra hour. And she was very, very nice and accommodating for being willing to do that. So we're going to go ahead and end it here, guys. But we want to thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. We want to thank Anneke Lucas. She did a great job here telling her story, going into detail, and the person that she's become today is really inspiring. And we hope you all learned something from this. We know Jay got a lot out of it. I got a lot out of it. And we hope everybody that watches this gets a lot out of it too. So thank you very much. For Jay Gatling, I am Jack Danger. Thank you for watching Secret
You've been listening to Secret America.